To finish this session, I would like to invite Ewelina Łęgowska, who came to us from Sopot, and she will tell us about working on the project model during the pandemic in Sopot. So it's going to be more about radiation, as far as I know. So now, this presentation. Welcome. Darek beautifully presented me. I came to you from Sopot. This is far away from Warsaw. Let me admit that, you know, Pendolino is supposed to be a quick train, but it still delays. In my presentation, I would like to show you our curriculum for the primary school and the secondary school. How do we do it using interdisciplinary projects? It's not just about physics. It contains a little bit of biology, chemistry, and even geography at times. I will also tell you a few words about myself because I wrote my own PhD dissertation using, or rather basing it on one of the larger projects. So first about myself, like we already heard, I teach physics in 2 schools in the Pomeranian province, International School of Gdańsk and Autonomous Schools of Sopot. Both are owned by the same foundation, the Sopot or Gdańsk World Foundation. I'm also an examiner. Other than I work for 2 schools, I'm also a member of the Bez Rutyny Association located in the University of Gdańsk. I also work for Magnesium. It's a company that focuses on project work and presents the curriculum as projects. This and previous year, I was also named the medal-winning teacher in Gdańsk and in Sopot. I am using interdisciplinary projects in my work. So now let me start with the projects that is associated with my PhD thesis. There is an international project in place, European Palliative Care Academy. It's a postgraduate training for volunteers and employees, and employees working in palliative medicine. In my project, I included the use of experiment as a novel tool used to work with orphaned children, because it turns out that any experiment, whether biological, chemical, or other, it's going to produce a repeatable result. And a child in trauma, orphaned, going through loss, is looking for stability in its life. So here you see an article from Dziennik Bałtycki Daily, where during a project, the Train of Dreams foundation, for which I also work, organized a 10-day stay for children doing this project. So you can read up on this project. You've got photos revealing certain experiments. As it turns out, children are more willing to take part in experimental classes. So we get a lot of feedback, and you can pass it on to psychologists, therapists. As a result, you can adapt therapy to a specific child. For instance, at the beginnings of my career, 12 years back, we had siblings, Albert and Jagoda, one younger, one a little bit older. Jagoda was younger, but she was taking over the mom. They lost a mom. She died in hospice. And Albert is an autistic child, so he's very closed off. And only when they started doing experiments, Albert opened up. He started talking about himself, about his loss, you know, what happened and why. Which is when we summarized this project. Jagoda actually did it. She approached me and she said, Ewelina, thank you, because I just got my brother back. So you can use our knowledge as physicians, our knowledge of physics, also in these very difficult circumstances. And now a few words about Sopot. I encourage you to visit our town. I work in the autonomous secondary school of Sopot. I will focus on this school. This is a privately owned establishment. We focus on respect, responsibility, autonomy, and involvement of the entire school community. So when I talk about a school community, I do not only mean teachers and principals, but also parents and students. Now, talking about the curriculum that we have to implement, that you have to go through in order to graduate, we assume that, well, we try to depart from a traditional definition of a gifted student or less gifted student. Teachers present here, teachers in general focus on that, and according to the definition by Levitsky from 1996, a gifted student is the one displaying general or detailed interest in a specific area. In our school, we assume that every single child is gifted somewhere, and our task is to locate that gift and develop those gifts, whether it's about physics or physics combined with other topics. So this is how we create a silhouette of a gifted student, a student with rich cognitive skills, motivated and ambitious, wanting to learn about the world. So this is how the autonomous secondary school that I work for allows you to add your own curriculum. So it doesn't have to be necessarily just physics and math. Perhaps you're interested in social sciences as well, and you can add those to your curriculum as well. So now such projects, some projects that some of them are executed also in the Warsaw Technical University. We benefit from them as well. A lot of our kids, our youth, participated in master classes organized by Warsaw University, Warsaw Technical University, and in Kraków. We also participated in CANSAT, which is a project assuming that you create a team focusing on the construction of a mini satellite sized like a can of Coke. We didn't go too far, but we wrote a beautiful project, a beautiful design written in Polish and in English. We focused on engineering, how it all would work. So for our young people, this was a challenge, but they really defended their ground. 2 years ago, we participated in the project organized by the Nuclear Forum. It was called the Radon Map of Poland. It was about collecting detectors and taking those detectors to schools, placing them in the school building for a month or two, and then on the basis of the results obtained from the Nuclear Forum, the kids were analyzing the data, and as you can see, what was created as a result is a map including 42 schools and the distribution of radon throughout the buildings. Interestingly, only 3 schools participated in the Pomorskie province. So, for us, being a small school, this was quite something. And even working on real measurements was very satisfactory for the kids. We also took part in competitions entitled With Energy for Climate. Young people on their own executed their own projects. You see 2 very interesting ones that I wanted to focus on. One is it's a survey conducted by an 8th grade student, a survey regarding the planned construction of a nuclear power plant in our province. So this student went to the campus of the Technical University, asked students if they would be in favor or against building a nuclear power plant, and if so, why. The other project was about the depiction of women as those who also rule in STEM, because, on February 10th, there is an international Day of Women in Science, and so a group of young people created Instagram profiles for famous women of science, whether it was physics or mathematics, doesn't matter. And finally, other than showing the curriculum in an interdisciplinary manner, I think showing it very simply is also a good way to go. You have to, also do it with charisma. And so we've got 3 projects. One was designing Easter eggs containing portraits of very well-known scientists and winning extra points for that. We talked about gravitation, also about the dark side of the moon, because this is very, mysterious as a topic. So our young people decided to modify the photos from Apollo 11. You can see myself as Neil Armstrong. This is our principal and one of our social sciences teacher. So if you ever wanted to know and were wondering who actually arrived at the moon, it was Łęgowska, Chodorowski, and our principal. They were not Americans. They were all Polish. And the final thing that I do are games. I'm not sure if you know the game called Awantura o Kasę. We transformed it a little bit. It's not about the money in our game, but it's all about candy. So I become the moderator. I choose a category, math, physics, or something else. So you answer the question, but first you have to bid on the number of pieces of candy. So I know that we are delayed, so I wanted to say it all very quickly. But before I finish, 2 very important projects that one of them is now in the process of being executed. One was done 3 years ago. This is my single graduate who is interested in space and in radiation, wanted to check what's the distribution of space radiation on our coast. And I said, yes, excellent. So let's write a project, send it to the National Center for Nuclear Research, and we received detectors from them. It was during the pandemic, and this young man with a laptop and radiation detector runs around the coast and measures signal from the Tri-City area. This distribution was very equal, but he wanted to check on that. He wanted to find out if he was right. He did. And another project that is now ongoing. Well, we are still negotiating it. Hopefully, we will succeed. It's about investigating the level of radiation on the grave sites of the Tri-City area. It turns out that our students often look for interesting scientific work, and they found information that in old post-German cemeteries, the level of radiation, for some reason, is higher than in Polish cemeteries. So why don't we investigate that and check on that? Right, and thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, you can contact me on my email or at the school. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much for the review of your activities. I hope that such initiatives as that of the Nuclear Forum Foundation is something that you would decide to join. Now, we are at a very difficult turning point. So now it's time for a break. But after the break, we are going to have workshops. So now we will split up a little bit and stay focused, because we will create subgroups. So let's not get lost.